A radical function is a function that has a square root in the expression. Radical functions are functions that also have you take in consideration of their domain, or all the values of x, before you would graph them in a given function. So when finding the domain of a function, you would try to find all the possible valid inputs for x of the function, or to find if the function is defined correctly. So if we're to think about a radical function's domain, we would have our positive numbers and 0 being able to define the function. But when we incorporate a negative number under the radical sign, we get our function as undefined as we graph our function with complex numbers, which is another topic for another day. So let's take the equation f of x equals square root of 3x plus 6. We can write the inequality as 3x plus 6 is greater than or equal to 0. You can take the 6 and move it to the other side to get it 3x is greater than or equal to 6, and then divide 3 on both sides to get the domain where x is greater than or equal to 3 and the function is defined. When we would start to graph a radical function, let's first take the function of y equals square root of x. We already know that the square root of x can't be a negative number, so we don't plot any of the points for the negative values. So we can plot the points for the positive numbers, which just gives us this graph. If we want to move this graph up, we would add any number to the square root. For example's sake, let's move the graph up by 2. We would make the function y equals the square root of x plus 2. And this is what the graph would look like. Now, if we want to shift the graph either to the left or right, we would have to add the number inside the radical. So we can add plus 4, which would give us the function y equals square root of x plus 4. This would shift the graph to the left as shown. If we want to shift this to the right, we would use a negative number instead of a positive number. Now, if we were to flip it across the y-axis, we would have to flip the signs under the radical, so we can get y equals square root of negative x. Now, if we want to flip it across the x-axis, we would have to change the signs on the outside of the radical, so we can do y equals negative square root of negative x.